This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November, and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Grounded in Maine podcast is an open conversation about how we show up for the world. I started this podcast out of a desire to learn new ways to be sustainable because the word sustainability is big. It can be overwhelming, and I just wanted to learn, different ways to try to be part of the solution and not feel like it's too late. So I am talking to people who are doing different things and learning so much. I hope that you are too.
I just want to take a moment and thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I also need to thank Buzzsprout for hosting this podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her amazing music genius, for Becca Coffron and her beautiful artwork. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Please check out the show notes. I'm going to have links posted in there if you would like to follow this guest and learn more about them. Thank you again. We'll talk to you soon. Hi there.
Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy Fagan. My guest today is Liz Shipton. She is an author. She lives off-grid. She is also sailing the world, which is so exciting and so inspiring, and I am just loving learning from her. She is sailing with her partner and her dog, and they are having a great time. They're learning a lot and seeing a lot, and of course I'll let Liz tell you all about that. But I love her story, and she actually writes a lot about climate change. So yeah, just really interesting. But I just love her story of finding the awe, finding the beauty in the world, and just taking the time to enjoy it. I'm such a fan. So I am going to get to Liz in just a minute, but if you love this podcast, please feel free to share it. Feel free to rate and review wherever you listen. That will help to get this podcast in front of new ears. And if you don't love it, please let me know, because I want to make sure to provide value to you. And if you're not getting that, I can't. If you don't tell me, I can't fix it. So anyway, here is Liz Shipton. I think you're going to love this.
Hi there. My guest today is Liz Shipton, and Liz and I just met on Facebook?
I can't remember. Maybe.
It might have been Facebook. Anyway, Liz has a very interesting story to share, and I am going to let her tell you because it's so much better from her than me. But Liz, thank you so much for joining me from Cartagena.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so Liz is sailing the world. Liz and her partner and her dog Loki here. And you are now in Cartagena. You said you've been here for a couple months, and but you're also an author, and
Yep.
you have all these really cool things about you that just are intriguing. So where shall we start? So you're an author. What do you write about?
Well, it's actually interesting that your podcast is about sustainability. My books are very much influenced by my real life filtered through this like very weird lens of dystopian fiction and romance. So, as you said, I am sailing the world. I live on a boat, have been living on this boat for the last 2 years. My books are basically about two people who are forced to cross a dangerous ocean together in a dystopian future where like most of it's our world, but most of the world is underwater and most of the land is inhospitable because of climate change. And there was a massive pandemic 20 years ago that wiped out most of the population. So it's very much like the way I imagine our world could go if things go like really, really badly. And so that's the world, is this sort of, post-apocalyptic dystopian version of our world in sort of like 150 years into the future. And the story is basically there's a girl, she's sort of a train wreck. She doesn't really have her, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Sure.
She doesn't really have her shit together. And she's sort of a disaster. And then she has this like very patient sailing instructor who kind of gets dragged along on this adventure with her because she makes some very poor choices. And as a result of her reckless decisions, they end up basically having to cross this dystopian world by boat. And hijinks and hilarity ensue. They meet pirates, they rescue a dog, they fall in love, they take down an evil biotech corporation, and they save the world, and they all live happily ever after. Eventually, they haven't gotten to that point yet because I'm still writing the books, but
okay. So it's a series.
Yes.
Cool. Yes. And it's none of them are finished yet? Like you don't have them all?
Well, so currently there are 5 published out.
Oh, okay.
That's 3 of the main trilogy and 2 prequels. And then I'm in the process. I actually just finished, like today, another prequel for the series. And then the next thing I will be writing is an additional trilogy to kind of like continue the story and eventually wrap up where they're going. So it's going to be a long series. It's going to be probably, I think, like 9 or 10 books total, 5 of which are currently out.
Wow, that's so cool. It's so fun. And listening to you talk about it, it doesn't sound so far off.
Yeah, right.
Some of it, I was thinking like post-apocalyptic, really? I mean, it sounds kind of like, I feel like we're in that period right now.
We are already. Yeah, it's like a very exaggerated version of like our world, basically.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of like almost like animated or exaggerated.
Yeah.
What it is. Yeah. Sure. That's really fun. And so there's like climate change mentioned in that, which is fun / scary. But and so now you're an author. You were living in California before. Okay. And
so my partner and I both lived in California, and we left California September 2021 and basically sailed down the Pacific coast of the United States into Mexico, into Baja California. We went up into the Sea of Cortez for a little bit, and then we spent about a year in Mexico. And then since then have come through Central America on the Pacific side, through Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Panama. And then in March of this year, we came through the Panama Canal, and we're now on the Atlantic side, so on the Caribbean side, basically, and then went from Panama to where we are now in Colombia. And that's kind of been the trip so far, and it's taken us about almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in September since we left.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And now, was your boyfriend a sailing instructor?
Actually, yes. Yes. So we didn't meet that way. The books, yes. So the main character in the books is very much based on me. She's like a very exaggerated version of myself. And her love interest has elements of my boyfriend for sure. So yes, he was a sailing instructor when we both lived in San Diego. So he actually learned to sail as a kid and then didn't do it for a really long time. And then when we went back to San Diego for school, he kind of got back into it, started teaching again, ended up getting work as a yacht skipper in Europe for a couple of summers and did that. And kind of was, I think it was around that time that he was like, hey, you know, I really like this, like teaching sailing and he was getting really into it. And I was like, well, I'm into that. Like, why not? Sure. And at first it really just started as we were going to live on a boat in Santa Cruz. Mainly because Santa Cruz, California is like extremely expensive to live, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to afford housing there.
Yeah.
So this whole idea kind of came about as a way of like, well, it'll be cheaper to live on a boat at the dock than it will be to rent a house. Can you hear my dog barking?
Not really.
Oh, okay. That's good, because this is the thunder. She's going crazy. And then it kind of just snowballed. Like once we had kind of come up with this plan of like, well, we'll live on a boat. Then it was like, well, if we're going to live on a boat, why don't we like sail it somewhere? Like that would be fun. And then
you don't have to pay anything.
Right. Then we can anchor for free. And yeah, we'll just do that. And so it sort of just, yeah, it just kept going. And eventually that was the plan. And we just kept going after it until it happened. So yeah.
So you're just exploring the world. And you said you gave yourself 3 to 5 years to do this?
Yeah, initially that was sort of the timeline that we had looked at, and we're almost 2 years in. And I mean, we don't know for sure what we would do after or if we would keep going. I mean, there's people out here, you know, it does seem like if you don't know about cruising or sailing, it does seem like a totally insane thing to do. But there are actually quite a few people out here doing this, like living this lifestyle, who have been doing it for 10 years, 20 years. I mean, who literally like they live out here. So I mean, that's always in the back of our mind is like, well, there's that possibility we could just keep doing it, but we'll just do it until it doesn't make sense to do it anymore, and then we'll figure out the next thing, I think.
Yeah, that's very cool. What was I had a thought. Do you plan out where you're going? Like you said, you spent a year in Mexico?
Yeah, so we try to. It's hard. It is harder than we thought it would be to sort of decide where you want to go, because with all this like freedom does come just sort of like decision paralysis, right? Of like, where are we going to go? Where should we go next? I don't know. It was very easy at first because it was like, well, we're going to Mexico, so we just go south. Like we know we're going that way.
Yeah.
And then once we were there, we ended up, I can't remember why we ended up. Oh, I remember. Okay. So there's also weather you have to deal with, right? Like, so there's hurricane season on the Pacific side of Baja. And then there's lightning and rainy season further south in like Costa Rica. So there's sort of this sweet spot right at the southernmost port of Mexico where you're south of the hurricanes and you're north of the lightning. And that was where we ended up staying for most of the summer last year. So you could say we kind of got stuck a little bit because you just are sort of at the mercy of the weather.
Yeah.
And that was why we ended up spending so much time in Mexico. But it gave us a great opportunity to, like, we left the boat on the coast and then we rented a car and drove inland, and we went to San Cristobal de las Casas and San Jose del Pacifico, and we went to Mexico City, and we went into Guatemala and got to see some of Guatemala. So that was cool.
Okay. So your home base is the boat, but you're exploring the world as well.
Yeah. It's a little more difficult. So we had taken the dog back home to California for a little while we were in Mexico, and that gave us the opportunity to drive and explore. It is a little harder with her because you have to account for, like, we can't take a bus with her, which makes things difficult. But yeah, we're hoping while we're here in Colombia to maybe rent a car and go into the inland areas a little bit and do some exploring here as well.
All right. That's cool. And so was there like a point where, I know your boyfriend was saying that he really likes teaching sailing and he likes sailing, and you said, yeah, okay. But like, so you started this in 2021, which was right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, I guess
the
it was
global
like,
pandemic. Was that like did that have any weight in that? Like, let's get out.
No, I mean, not really. We do know people who did do that. who are like, well, let's get out of here. And also we know people who got really kind of screwed by COVID and got trapped in countries, like on their boat in Mexico for like 3 years, or couldn't actually. So in one of my books, this happens to some people where they had like basically like been at sea and arrived at a country to find that they couldn't go ashore, like they were not allowed. So they were like,
can't get food, you can't.
Right. You're like, well, what do we do? Fortunately, that did not happen to us, but it definitely did happen to some people that we know of. But yeah, I mean, it didn't have too much bearing on our plans. We just, mostly our plans was like, we spent about 5 or 6 years beforehand saving money and working and kind of preparing. And then we bought the boat about 2 years before we left, and spent a couple years just sort of getting everything ready and, being ready to go. And then
okay.
It's just a case of like, okay, are we ready? Is there anything else to do? I guess not. We should just go. So
okay, so it wasn't a total spur of the moment, I bought a boat, let's go.
Definitely not. No, that's the thing.
Was several years in the making.
Yeah, people sometimes ask, they're like, like, what advice do you have for people who maybe want to do this? And I feel like the advice you hear a lot is just go for it. Like, you just have to go.
Right.
And like, that is true, but you also have to plan pretty intensely and like spend some time saving and thinking about what you're actually doing.
You're literally going to be on a boat for years.
Right. You have to plan. So it's like a little of both. We spent probably 5 or 6 years saving and planning, but then when it came right down to it, there had to be that moment of just saying, well, let's go.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. And is that a guitar behind you?
Ukulele, actually.
Ukulele. Nice. Do you both play?
Trev knows some chords. He always forgets them. And then I always have to reteach him every time we play. He doesn't play as much. I play more. But we both we actually met as musicians. We both used to be musicians.
Oh my gosh.
That's kind of how we met. So yeah, so we've always been a little weird and a little bit like outside and on a slightly different path, I think, to everyone else, which like maybe has some bearing on why we are the way we are.
I don't know. It kind of sounds like you're living my dream. I mean, I don't know. I was talking to my husband on our walk right before this meeting, and I was like, I don't know about ocean sailing. But I was thinking about weather, like you had mentioned, and so you stayed put for a year because of that.
Yeah, you just have to plan. You just have to be aware of what's coming, and the weather forecast is like always wrong, but you do your best.
Yeah,
and you just try to be smart about it and prepare for it.
Okay.
It can definitely be scary for sure. Like sailing on the ocean in the middle of the night in rough weather is scary for sure.
Right. Yeah. But, I mean, we were talking about like the Titanic and the boat that went to look for the Titanic. Like, you're just in a sailboat.
Yeah. I don't know. So the Titanic, let's see. We're not sailing near any icebergs. So there's that. That's the thing, is like, honestly, when you're out in the middle of the ocean, there's not really anything to hit, right? There's like, you're pretty clear. When you're close to shore, that's when the problems start, because there's stuff to hit close to shore.
Okay. Yeah. No, you don't worry about. See, I don't think I could do this as much as it sounds fun. I just think in the middle of the ocean and then a thunderstorm and like waves and. Oh
yeah, that's would be totally scary. Absolutely scary. Yeah. And we like lightning is a big fear, because if you're a boat and you're out there, you're like the one thing that the lightning is going to hit. So lightning is a big concern for sure. And that was part of why we stayed in Mexico for so long, is because we were just really scared of lightning and we didn't want to go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
We have been out where there's been lightning sort of around, and you just, it's scary for sure.
You just stay inside.
Just, No, this is fine. You know that meme with the dog sitting in the house and the house is burning down around it and it's going, this is fine. It's kind of like that.
Oh my gosh. I love going on. This is how neurotic I am. I love going on cruises. I love being on the ocean in a big boat. Little boats make me. I cry when I'm kayaking or canoeing, and it's like, and the waves start to hit. I start crying, and I'm like, I gotta get off. I gotta get off the water. But on a cruise ship, I'm like, I'm just sitting here. But I always, if I'm booking a room, I book like an inside room that I can't see outside. Like if I'm gonna go down, I don't want to know it. Like I seriously do that. I'm like, I want to be in a little box, and it's just gonna fill with water while I'm sleeping.
Oh God, I don't know. That's like my nightmare. I can't. I want to be out there on the deck. I'm just gonna jump in the water and start swimming. Like,
but the sharks.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like sharks. I could probably take a shark. Come on.
You probably could take a shark.
No, probably not.
I don't think I could.
A terrible attitude.
Anyway, it just, I mean, what you're doing sounds really, really glamorous, and I'm sure there are unglamorous times, but
well, it's definitely not glamorous, but
I love that you get to explore the world. I love that you're giving yourself all this time. Like when I was thinking of you sailing the world, I was like, you know, when you're doing like a worldwide cruise or something, it's like a year. I think it's like a year and you're hitting all these places, but this is like no timeline, which is so cool. I love that you spent a year in Mexico and, you know, docked off of Mexico, and now you've been in Cartagena for 2 months and you're going to stay another month. And like, do you know what's next?
Yes, somewhat, roughly. We don't know specifically. We actually need to plan this next little bit, but we know that, so again, hurricane season, summertime, we can't go into the Caribbean yet because of hurricanes, but like fall, winter, that's our plan, is to basically kind of do the rest of the Caribbean and see the islands and do that. And then early next year, we hope to cross the Atlantic and go to Europe and spend a little time in Europe. So we kind of have the large rough details sketched out, but we don't have the exact specifics of where exactly we're going within that.
I'm just curious. You don't need to. You don't owe me anything.
We do need to have it together at some point.
Well, you don't have to go anywhere until like September. Like, is it like end of September when hurricane season's over?
Yeah, September, October.
Yeah. And then I also, crossing the Atlantic in the winter, is that possible?
It'll be like March. That's around the time of year that you want to do it.
All right, cool.
It's like the good time to do it.
Okay. And so you had talked to me about, you had filled out my form and you talked about alternative lifestyles. And I love your story of getting to this point. I love that you were just like, I love that it took you like 6, 7, 8 years to plan that, because that would so be me. I hate my husband likes to go camping, and I don't hate camping. I hate short camping. Like, you know, like a 3-day weekend, you spend 1 day driving and you pack everything up, and then you spend 1 full day there, and then the 3rd day you're packing up and doing it, but then everything's dirty. I'm like, this is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
You pack everything, you put it down, and then you pick it back up, and it's just like, blah. But the fact that you have time to spend places, I think, is really cool. And the planning, I love the planning. I want to be that spontaneous person that will just like pick up and leave and do something, but it's not me. I freak out.
I think you need both to some extent.
Yeah.
I'm a planner for sure.
I'm getting better at pulling the trigger and just doing stuff, but there are a lot of things that I just don't.
Yeah.
But anyway, but so alternative lifestyles. This is one of them, I assume, getting on a boat and living on the ocean, the big wide open ocean. Now, are you I've been watching too many movies lately. Are you scared of pirates? Are there like areas where there are pirates?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't say we're scared of them. I think that we have been in places where we have heard of other boats like getting boarded and people stealing stuff from them like at gunpoint, which is definitely scary. It hasn't happened to us. It's more prevalent in some parts of the world than others. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of just, I don't know, it's one of those things kind of like the lightning where you try to be as smart as you can about it. Ultimately, you know that it is a possibility, but like you can't let that be the thing that makes you make a decision. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at a certain point, you kind of just have to be like, well, yeah, it might happen, but what are we gonna not do it? I don't know.
Right.
We won't go. We're not going to like Somalia, So we go to safe places. And there are definitely places where you just don't go.
Right.
And as long as you do that, you should be all right.
Sure. I hear that. I had another thought and I lost it, but so, and you said you wanted to go to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big goal.
Yeah, we went. Well, so when my boyfriend worked over there, he got to know Croatia really well because that was where the yachts were that he was skippering.
Nice.
And I actually went with him when he did his training course, and I got to spend a little time there. And we both just, I mean, it is incredible. It's an amazing place. And I think in our minds, that's like, oh, if we could get back there one day, like on our own boat and be there again, even just for a little while, like that would be really cool.
Or you could stay there on your boat.
I mean,
no rules.
No possibility. Yeah, we have half seriously discussed that as well. But yeah, I think getting to Croatia is sort of like a North Star that we're kind of following at this point.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. One of my bucket list places is out of my head right now, but it's nearish Croatia. Gosh. That's really bad. Starts with an S. Anyway.
Sardinia?
No.
Now I'm wanting to Google like what's near Croatia.
Near-ish. Oh my gosh, that's really bad. It's like been on my list for 12 years.
Well, so I wonder, Slovenia or maybe Sarajevo. Slovenia.
Slovenia. Yeah.
I don't really know much about Slovenia. What's there?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. It's just one of those places that I was just like, that looks really cool. I want to go.
Nice. See, that's awesome. That's very cool. I like that. Just being like, that sounds great. I'm going to go and check it out.
Just point to a map and that's my goal.
If you do go to that part of the world, so when I went with him to do his training course, we did like a little bit of traveling around sort of that area. Sarajevo, which is in Bosnia Herzegovina, is awesome. Very cool. It has a beautiful little old town in the city that just feels like something out of The Sound of Music. And the rest of the city is very cool as well. They have like a very like violent recent history. There was a civil war there, and parts of the city you can see are still scarred from it. But like, yeah, it was an amazing place. Or it was a surprisingly cool place. Somewhere that we just sort of stopped on the way to another spot and then liked it so much that we ended up spending like a week there because it was so beautiful.
Nice.
So, yeah, highly recommend if you get to that part of the world.
Sarajevo. Okay, cool. I never really thought about it, but that's
right.
That does sound really nice.
One of those places that you wouldn't necessarily think, but it is very, very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm loving this conversation. I love just kind of putting things together for myself with a sustainability podcast. Like what I'm kind of getting from a lot of what you're talking about, Liz, is like finding that awe and respect for the world and just how beautiful the world can be and how scary it can be, but also, just respecting that and wanting to spend more time getting to know, this earth and what's out there. And I think that's beautiful. And I love that you're doing it on a sailboat, which is also like low fuel.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We live a very, I guess I would say we live a sustainable life. We're very conscious about like water consumption because we carry all our own water. And if we're somewhere remote, like my boyfriend is lugging jugs of water back to the boat to fill our tanks. So it becomes like a very you become very aware of what you are dependent on. And like when we're at sea and have to throw trash away, if we fill up our little kitchen trash thing and then we have to get rid of that bag and we're on the ocean, all of a sudden it's like, what do we do with our trash? And then you start thinking like, and also in a lot of the countries we've been visiting, a lot of them don't have a lot of infrastructure for trash. We've seen a lot of trash on beaches and in towns and just places where we've gone ashore with our trash to be like, where do we throw this away? And people are like,
there's no place for that.
Right. And it's you suddenly are like, oh, right. What does happen to all of our trash when we just throw it away in the States? Like, yeah,
where is a way?
Right. Where is a way? There isn't really an away, right?
I mean, I've heard about the Pacific garbage patch, right?
That's a way. That's where it all goes, which we have not seen, and I hope we don't. But yeah, that
would be disturbing for sure. But that's really interesting. I love that. And in this way, you're kind of living my dreams, just like, you're experiencing what it's like to be in other places and getting to understand how they see different things, but also, learning how to, you can sort of, I don't know, map things out and maybe make plans for other ways, like the whole trash thing. Like, what do you, if you are in a place where there's no trash receptacle, then what do you do with it? I mean, really, are you like making plans? Like if I were here, I would maybe build something, or I don't know. I'm just like, I'm imagining what it would be like.
A lot of places, like in Mexico and Central America, burn their trash and they just have like trash burning days, which is not great. Yeah. But like, like what else are you going to do? For us, if there's nowhere to put it, we'll just put it. We have like a locker in the stern where we can put bags until we find somewhere to put it. But yeah, it is a weird conundrum to think about, especially when you see trash like burning on the beach and you're just like, that's all just going into the sky. Okay.
And the ocean, all that debris. Yes. Oh gosh.
And it's like it's not like it's the people's fault, right? Because like they don't have anything else to do with it. It's infrastructure and money, right? Like having the money to have good infrastructure to take care of trash and recycling and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that you'll find in Europe that it'll be nice and clean.
I assume so. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, so Liz, when I say the word sustainability, what does that mean to you? I know you've got lots of thoughts on that.
I think to me it just means a way that can be continued indefinitely, right? Like there's no finite end to this way of life, which doesn't seem like most of what we're doing these days. It does seem to me like most of the world right now is barreling out of control towards some kind of end, and I don't know exactly what that is, but
it does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, or if not like some kind of end, some kind of like peak has been reached, and now things are just gonna kind of progressively get shittier and shittier and shittier and shittier for, God knows how long. And technically, I guess that's sustainable, right? That's sustainability. It's just not a great version of sustainability.
Right.
But yeah, and it's like kind of what you're saying at the beginning. I thought it was really interesting how you were talking about like you do a lot of different types of podcasts and you talk about a lot of different things, which I think that is all of those things have to be a part of the conversation, because sustainability means everything. Like you have to really think about every piece of the puzzle in order to build a sustainable culture and future and world.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. The things that I've been talking about are not untrue, but they are not like linear with other things that I've talked about, but it's cool. It's fine with me. It's fine with me. And so the people that my my podcast interview that came out today was a couple of people that work for a business called Merge Impact, and they called me out when I said, what does the word sustainability mean to you? And they were like, sustainability is not good enough. We need to do better than that, because we can't sustain what we're doing right now. This is not the way that I want to sustain. Yeah. So, and that was, it was really cool. And I was like, oh yeah. Like, we don't want to keep on like this. My goodness. So, but yeah, it threw me, but it was also really cool. I'm glad that they did that, because it's true.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually.
We need to do better.
Not something that I had thought about. So then what is the word? We need to come up with a
word.
We
need a better word. Come on,
let's have a better word. It. I'm the writer. I should be able to come up with this, right? Give me a few days. I'll get back to you.
Okay. So we're going to think about a word that's better than sustainability. But Liz, this has been so much fun. I love getting to know you and hearing your story. This is so cool. So if somebody else is, what are your books? What's your book?
So
series?
you can find all of my books. So there are 2 versions of my books. I should preface by saying there is a young adult version, and then there's an adult version. The adult version is for adults. Yeah. And the young adult version is for like younger people. But so you can find both on my website at lizshipton.com, and you can find the adult version on Amazon. Book 1 is called Salt. I actually have behind me.
Right, I see that. Okay.
Called Salt, and then you'll find, if you read that one, you'll find the rest of the series from there.
Awesome. That's very cool. So lizshipton.com.
Yes, that is my website.
Okay. And you're also on Instagram, which I just followed you. I'm so sorry.
I am on Instagram, and I'm also on TikTok. I don't know if, weirdly, TikTok is like a very big place for authors and indie authors. There's like this whole community of people on there called Book Talk who are like reading books. So I'm very active on TikTok.
That's awesome.
And also Instagram. If you want to follow our sailing adventures, it's at SV_Loki on Instagram, LOKI. And if you want to follow me, it's at Liz Shipton Author for Instagram and TikTok.
Cool. Oh my gosh. I know TikTok is big for podcasters too, but I'm like, I'm like an old lady, because whenever I open it up, that something is like yelling or jumping around, I'm like, just close it back up.
It is
just close that box.
Yeah.
So I am on TikTok, but I don't really do it. I don't really open it. But okay, very cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I'm totally following your trip now. But I hope that, has the thunder calmed down? I haven't heard Loki.
Yes. There's Ayloy.
Not Loki, sorry.
The boat's name is Loki, the dog's name is Ayloy.
Ayloy, my goodness.
It's my fault for having a boat and a dog. I mean, how are people supposed to
I remember what I choose. It's like selective. I remember the name Loki. But.
Well, you have your cats and dogs in your life that are named Loki, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question, I think the rain has actually stopped. So I think I'm actually going to go and walk my dog, which will be nice because it'll be cool outside and it won't be 1,000,000 degrees.
Yes.
But yeah, it's going to be good.
Oh, I hope you enjoy that. Both of you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again so much. This has been amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This has been really awesome.
Yes. All right. Take care.
I just want to take a moment and thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I also need to thank Buzzsprout for hosting this podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her amazing music genius, for Becca Coffron and her beautiful artwork. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Please check out the show notes. I'm going to have links posted in there if you would like to follow this guest and learn more about them. Thank you again. We'll talk to you soon.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get we'll find a way to soothe the sickness. We'll heal the ache with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. When that state of grace has finally found me, well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder,